The world is full of stories, and from time to time, they permit themselves to be told.
Upon launching Duke Nukem 3D, 3D Realms was unknowingly on its way to becoming an integral part in the popularization of first-person shooters. For the studio's creative minds, there existed a desire to fundamentally elevate the game's design, gameplay, and storytelling potential. Such aspirations were what motivated the inception of Prey in 1995. To achieve its ambitions, 3D Realms set about developing a new game engine to run Prey and future endeavors. These goals and countless others strained the workload, resulting in a series of unmet expectations. For years, the genre evolved without its influence. The likes of Battlefield and Call of Duty rose to the top, establishing a new norm, while Prey endured development hell. But Prey, when it finally emerged from the depths, offered an experience unlike any other. While there's little to suggest it marked the seminal release 3D Realms had dreamt of, Prey's 2006 adventure merited applause for at least attempting to reinvent the wheel. What unfortunately followed were myriad stumbling blocks that plagued the IP for several years thereafter. A sequel was greenlit, announced, then canceled. And though the franchise changed hands on more than one occasion, both installments managed to follow 3D Realms' basic vision by striving to enrich the genre. Today, Prey has evolved in its own right, distant from the promise of the original, but still honoring the desires held by a small group of developers 25 years ago. The journey wasn't easy, though few would argue it hasn't paid off in spades. This is the history of Prey. This video has been brought to you in part by World of Tanks. As one of the biggest and most popular free-to-play tank games on the market, World of Tanks brings gamers epic firefights throughout historical landmarks all around the globe. Available for the PC with more than 100 million players and featuring over 200 different vehicles, the game allows tank enthusiasts to wreak havoc and crush the enemy and their weapon of choice like never before. There has never been a better time to start playing World of Tanks either. The game is hosting its Holiday Ops event with special and daily missions from December 9th through January 10th that allow you to earn tons of rewards, tanks, customizations, crews, and bonuses. Looking to terminate your foes in style? This year, the game even features Arnold Schwarzenegger himself as a powerful commander for you to unlock by completing daily missions and challenges in-game. So join in. Follow our unique link in the description to get a head start with World of Tanks and receive the fast and maneuverable T3 Covert, a holiday stamp, an Antiduplicator Charge, and 1,000 Shards. We'd like to thank World of Tanks for sponsoring this video. Scott Miller, the designer responsible for Kingdom of Kroz, founded 3D Realms as Apogee Software Productions in 1987. In the 1990s, Miller's team slowly expanded, broadening its horizons to develop and publish projects across a variety of genres. The release of 2D platformer Duke Nukem in 1991 counted among Apogee's most notable endeavors. Interestingly, the following year saw the company co-publish id Software's Wolfenstein 3D, a title widely considered the grandfather of first-person shooters. It didn't take long for Miller's crew to gain an interest in exploring a similar style of play. Development on the seminal Duke Nukem 3D commenced in 1994 and ran until 1996, when the group launched the shooter under a new company moniker, 3D Realms. During Prey's conception in 1995, it too was estimated to release after a 2- or 3-year development cycle, but no one could have anticipated the challenges ahead. The team dreamt of innovating FPS experiences with Prey's design, which rested squarely on an engine that pioneered Portal technology. Simultaneously crafting an original IP and new 3D engine proved taxing though. Former lead programmer Mark Doctorman divulged in a Games Radar retrospective that all of the elements necessary for building a game were present in the engine by mid-1996. When June arrived, the studio even had a playable prototype running. However, not every facet of the technology was of a promising quality. Still, Doctorman recalled being proud of the accomplished technical feats. This momentum hit a snag once studio co-owner Greg Broussard outlined his plans. Broussard, who later oversaw Duke Nukem Forever's turbulent production for 12 years, reportedly told Doctorman he trusted the crew to deliver. Yet Broussard also shared future intentions to change aspects of Prey during production's final stages. While Docterman attributed this interference to Broussard's role as a tweaker who had a distinctive approach to game design, the lead programmer believed the key to Prey's completion would lie in meticulous planning. Realizing the shooter would likely go unfinished, Docterman quit his job in August 1996. His wasn't the only departure either. 3D Realms underwent a staff exodus that year, opening the door for Paul Skydema to join as project lead and producer. Paul's first order of business was establishing core engine components and a level editor, as well as pinning down Prey's overarching design and narrative. A slice of this hard work debuted in an E3 1997 tech demo, wherein Paul showcased Prey's portal technology. Speaking with Infinite Megahertz, he explained how the technology provided a different way to break up 3D geometry. In short, the tech demo's portal functioned as a tear in three-dimensional space. The portal wasn't a mere object either, lacking finite height and width dimensions. On the contrary, it opened like a rip in space, revealing new dynamically rendered areas. Next Generation's three-page spread about Prey in September 1997 detailed the game's premise. Players were to assume the role of Talon Brave, a Native American taken aboard the planet Trakara. An artificially made planet, Trakara sheltered 3 alien species and a mysterious fourth race known as the Keepers. Each species boasted a unique design and inhabited their own section of the planet, all of which Talon would fly to via shuttle transport. Yet another demo managed to amaze critics during E3 1998, leading many to assume Prey could engender quite the paradigm shift. PC Gamer praised the graphics engine and special effects, while insisting the portal mechanics weren't a gimmick. GameSpot hailed Prey as the most impressive 3D game in development. Updated story details raised eyebrows too. Talon Brave had grown into a 27-year-old Apache living on a reservation in Arizona. This version would see him abducted by extraterrestrials and taken aboard the Trakara mothership. Specifics about the aliens remain the same. Suffice it to say, such a showing guaranteed Prey a place amongst the most eagerly anticipated games of the day. Amid the positive press, 3D Realms and publisher GT Interactive seemed confident in their ability to ship Prey in 1999. Happenings behind the scenes gave way to a contrasting set of circumstances, however. Later in 1998, 3D Realms deprioritized the project in favor of focusing on Duke Nukem Forever. Discussing this shift with Games Radar, Scott Miller explained that as a small studio, there was only so much the team could juggle at once. Paul contrarily cited the switch to Microsoft's DirectX as the reason for Prey's initial downfall. According to him, the game had primarily been developed on the 3DFX card and Glide API. When internal woes struck 3DFX Interactive, 3D Realms had no choice but to rely on DirectX. Though Paul considered it the right call, a move of this magnitude so late in production cost the studio dearly. Head engineer William Scarborough had to essentially rebuild the engine. Prey consequently devolved into a state of dysfunction, forcing studio heads to place the project on hold. Paul departed soon after, but the company refused to completely give up on its fledgling sci-fi shooter. While reassigning all content developers to Duke Nukem Forever, studio executives hired Connie Yu of Ion Storm and Quake 2 fame. Yu was brought in to lead technology and 3D engine development, as 3D Realms hoped her efforts would culminate in technology for internal use and third-party licensing. But subsequent years failed to yield noteworthy results with regards to any of the company's grander plans. By 2001, considerable time had been spent on addressing Prey-related cancellation rumors. The series of reassurances that 3D Realms would return to Prey in due time were, to a degree, proven to have been for naught. Publisher Take-Two Interactive expressed an interest in giving Prey a new lease on life in 2001. Because 3D Realms still had its hands full with Duke Nukem Forever, Rune creator Human Head Studios was tasked with helming the second version of Prey. Both 3D Realms and Take-Two financed the project, with the former involving itself in all aspects of design. Minus a few adjustments, much of the original vision went untouched. Instead of repurposing 3D Realms' Apache character, Human Head imbued Prey with Cherokee mythology. Abandoning the former team's game engine represented another change, since Human Head utilized id Tech Engine 4, the tech that powered Doom 3. Yet fully realizing the sci-fi world necessitated enhancements that were incorporated throughout development. As such, a lot of Prey's technical feats weren't initially possible in id Tech Engine 4. Despite maintaining 3D Realms' core premise, Human Head had higher hopes for the narrative, according to project lead Chris Reinhardt. Gary Whitta, who went on to develop the story of Telltale's The Walking Dead, was thus hired to pen the script. Wanting to further elevate science fiction in games, the developers created a non-traditional protagonist. But simply avoiding another bald white guy, as Reinhardt put it, wouldn't do the trick. Stereotypes had to be abandoned in favor of honoring Native American culture. 3D Realms' Talonbrave consequently fell to the wayside, making room for Domasi Tommy Tawoti, a Cherokee mechanic whose journey through Prey prioritized a reconnection with his heritage. Human Head additionally embedded its own flavor to the gameplay, recycling unused ideas from previous projects. For example, Prey's Walk boots were first designed for the cancelled Daikatana 2, then pitched for Unreal 2. Evidently, these missed opportunities worked to Prey's advantage. To the chagrin of Human Head and 3D Realms, not every idea made the cut due to time constraints imposed by publisher Take-Two. Miller claimed trouble surfaced partway through production because of disagreements that stemmed from Take-Two's desire to make Prey similar to Metroid. The dispute reportedly turned so sour that the publisher pulled funding, leaving 3D Realms to pick up the slack. When amends were made, a new problem arose. Human Head needed extra time. The studio unfortunately received no such convenience. In turn, developers were forced to discard elements like the portal gun. Miller later expressed disappointment at seeing Valve's Portal garner praise for the same mechanic 1 year after Prey hit stores. Compromises aside, Prey's return to the limelight warranted much excitement. Take-Two publishing label 2K Games reintroduced the spacefaring adventure in 2005, promising a PC and Xbox 360 release in 2006. Human Head CEO Timothy Garretson spoke highly of the work in progress, touting an experience that would breathe new life into the FPS genre with a compelling story, innovative mechanics, and dazzling imagery. Previews from critics during E3 2005 indicated Garretson's words may have held a kernel of truth. The final product showed otherwise. Approximately 10 years after its initial unveiling, Prey arrived in July 2006 to generally favorable critical reception. While some felt the wait worthwhile, others countered that Prey offered little in the way of innovation. Many a critic and player considered it a standard shooter, an experience that borrowed heavily from its predecessors in terms of level design and storytelling. And the narrative itself, though intriguing and serviceable, failed to live up to the lofty expectations set by Garretson's statement. Portal-based components weren't viewed as praiseworthy either. These mechanics introduced neat tricks early on, but functioned as glorified doors as the adventure progressed. Interestingly enough, a fair few players could tell the portals hadn't been pushed to their fullest potential. On the other hand, spirit abilities, biomechanical weapons, and gravity-defying gameplay elements were all well received. Some players lauded these facets as supplying Prey's most memorable moments. Tommy Tawoti garnered considerable acclaim as the protagonist, too, and Human Head's depiction of Native American culture proved pivotal for representation in gaming. As Critical Hit noted, Prey ushered in progress after becoming the first game created semi-collaboratively with Native Americans. Moreover, it counted among the first titles to explore life on a modern reservation, and gave Tommy complex characterization minus shallow stereotypes. Although Prey exploited the mystic Indian trope, Critical Hit argued that Human Head set a precedent by consulting natives for cultural sensitivity guidance. This commitment to authenticity allowed the mystic trope to at least appear more culturally sensitive, with Tommy's powers connecting to genuine Cherokee traditions. Prey moved 1 million units worldwide within 2 months. 3D Realms considered it a success, giving Human Head the green light to produce a second entry. In August 2006, weeks after Prey's arrival, Scott Miller publicly announced the sequel, claiming the team would address combat concerns and introduce more gameplay innovations. He reiterated as much in a blog post a couple of months thereafter, in addition to hinting to an intriguing follow-up story. Unbeknownst to the public, Miller wasn't telling the whole truth. Though 3D Realms and Human Head began conceptualizing sequel possibilities shortly after Prey's launch, Take-Two had no intention of pursuing the series further. Without publisher support, the studios spent the next 2 years bouncing ideas around. Matt Basinius, associate producer on Prey 2, would later tell Engadget that 3D Realms unveiled the project prematurely. Development on what eventually became Prey 2's bounty hunter premise didn't commence until Bethesda Softworks entered the mix in 2009. From an outsider's perspective, 2008 seemed to be the year that work on Prey 2 began in earnest. Radar Group, a company co-founded by Miller, disclosed plans to help Human Head with Prey 2 until it was ready to pitch to publishers. The announcement revealed Tommy's return, as well as details about his new adventure as a fugitive fleeing Earth. However, it remains unclear what form, if any, this version of the game took while under Radar Group's leadership. Regardless, Human Head's true vision materialized when Bethesda's parent company, ZeniMax Media, acquired the Prey license in 2009. This intel emerged that year courtesy of U.S. Patent and Trademark Office documents, but Bethesda waited until 2011 to announce Prey 2 for a 2012 release on PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. A cinematic trailer accompanied the news, alongside confirmation that Human Head would create the new title on a heavily modified version of id Tech Engine 4, with Chris Reinhardt again at the helm. Cursory details at the time only teased that players were to explore a new facet of the Prey universe in an open alien world. Developers unleashed more information in the weeks leading up to E3. Notably, Prey's protagonist Tommy no longer sat center stage. Killian Samuels had replaced him. A U.S. Marshal abducted during the events of Prey, Killian would awaken in an alien city with no recollection of how he got there. Making the best of his skill set, the character would embrace life as a bounty hunter, accepting missions from quest givers to hunt down alien targets. According to Basinius, Human Head conceived the bounty hunter idea at the start of development. Determining the core tenets that characterize Prey constituted another major decision. Thus, alien abductions, the role of keepers as the main race, the theme of one man versus a slew of aliens, and the predator-prey relationship all remained intact. The challenge, then, rested in marrying these themes to those of a bounty hunter. Designing gameplay around such an archetype proved a winning approach. Prey 2's verticality and combat style, dubbed Agile Combat, allowed Killian to perform swift maneuvers, including sliding, jumping, hanging from pipes, and more. All were in service of keeping things moving at a quick pace, Basinius told GameSpot at a press event in 2011. Weapons were equally integral to successfully implementing Killian's character into the Prey universe. Shoulder-mounted rockets, grenades, and an array of other weapons seemed an organic fit, as did the 20-plus gadgets and their abundant upgrades. Human Head showcased all of this and the Red Dead Redemption-inspired open world during E3 2011, receiving a positive response. Strangely, E3 2011 is also cited as the point at which an irreparable rift formed between the studio and Bethesda. Bethesda reportedly expressed satisfaction with Prey 2's progress on the heels of the E3 demo. Speaking with IGN in 2013, sources familiar with the matter alleged the publisher was so pleased that it promised Human Head extra development time, though 2012 remained the target launch year. What occurred in subsequent months and years is muddled by hearsay, uncorroborated claims, and what some in the know have construed as pettiness. IGN's report described a situation rife with unsavory business practices. Months following E3 2011, the publisher allegedly withdrew financial support. Still, Bethesda asked Human Head to alter certain aspects of the project, since, according to another source, the former had grown apprehensive about the developer's dated tools and techniques. Because previous assurances of an extended production cycle were never written in ink, Bethesda had no obligation to uphold said purported promise. Human Head, of course, lacked legal recourse. Both were locked in a stalemate. One needed funding, the other refused to budge. Prey 2's crew soon began relying on contract work for games like BioShock Infinite to pay the bills. One developer told IGN that Bethesda bullied Human Head into a corner by attempting to acquire the studio. This was the final straw. November 2011 reportedly saw the team go on strike, the result of a contract dispute and a calculated move to undercut the supposed acquisition attempt. Additional allegations suggested communication between the companies ground to a halt. Nothing concerning Prey 2 advanced in 2012, a Human Head staffer divulged. It therefore appeared the publisher chose to wait out the contractual agreement, a shrewd maneuver that, if true, guaranteed Bethesda regained full control of the sequel without expending any more funds. Pete Hines, VP of Bethesda's PR and marketing department, denied the claims in a 2016 interview with Metro News. He particularly questioned why the company would purchase a property, finance development, then arbitrarily derail the project before making good on the investment. Given that neither party's account of events corroborates that of the others, it's difficult to discern fact from fiction. However, troubles of some kind did indeed plague the relationship late in 2011, culminating in years of deafening silence, delays, and cancellation rumors. Bethesda consistently addressed the above with one straightforward explanation. Human Head's efforts on Prey 2 failed to meet quality standards. Hines repeated this sentiment at PAX Australia in 2014, upon finally confirming the sequel's cancellation. Developers contrarily insisted their work was of a high quality. Barring a few gameplay videos and previously unseen footage, fans will never get to judge Prey 2 on its own merit. Of the myriad rumors surrounding Prey 2, those involving Dishonored developer Arcane Studios counted among the most noteworthy. Speculation about Arcane's involvement began circulating 1 year before Bethesda parted ways with Human Head. A Prey-centric fan site, Alien Noir, and Kotaku shared the details in 2013, purporting to have heard that Obsidian Entertainment and Rebellion Developments were also approached to take over Prey 2. Ultimately, Bethesda settled on Arcane's Austin-based office, though some staffers weren't pleased with the prospect as stated by Kotaku's sources. Arcane higher-ups apparently appealed to the interest of employees by encouraging a System Shock-inspired reimagining. Hines denied the reports, yet leaked emails from Arcane's then-president, Rafael Colantonio, indicated otherwise. In a message to staff dated May 2013, Colantonio mentioned that pursuing a new IP would challenge growth. Thus, studio executives decided to explore Prey 2, believing it presented a fascinating opportunity if the team could reboot it. Thanks to ZeniMax's acceptance of their pitch, Arcane secured the go-ahead to conceive a spiritual successor to System Shock 2. Following the release of Dishonored and its expansions, Arcane split into two groups. The office in Lyon, France focused on Dishonored 2. Though the Austin-based studio assisted with these efforts, it expanded to prepare for Prey's production, which ramped up in 2014. In an interview with PC Games N, lead designer Ricardo Baer revealed the key concepts behind Arcane's reimagining took shape courtesy of ideas that Colantonio conceptualized. The studio head specifically envisioned a venture that harkened back to Arcane's debut title, the first-person action RPG Arx Fatalis, whose dungeons laid the groundwork for Prey's space station, Talos 1, and its interconnected ecosystem. Colantonio drafted Prey's main arc during a long flight. Still, his vision merely marked the start of a lengthy journey. Leaked design documents from 2014 outlined multiple pitches for what was internally known as Project Danielle. One proposal emphasized a crashed alien spacecraft. Another, referred to as Prey 2, proposed a game set on an island, housing a bunker replete with military secrets. Despite Prey 2017's protagonist Morgan Yu, Talos 1, and Typhon receiving no mention, the second pitch most closely resembled the final product. Unsurprisingly, the finer details came along as production progressed. Colantonio said it took a year of development before Arcane established Prey's 1960s lore. In fact, the alternate history touchstone of John F. Kennedy's surviving Oswald's assassination attempt denoted a starting point upon which many of the core pillars were based. JFK's survival, Baer informed Gamasutra, acted as the impetus for advanced space technology. Therefore, the president's brush with death provided a catalyst for the nation's renewed focus on the space race. Even Talos 1's Neo-Deco design spawned from the alternate history angle, evidenced in the station's aesthetic being molded after hotels from the 60s and 70s that JFK would have frequented. This same level of detail crept into the making of Prey's Typhon aliens, specifically the Mimics. Beginning with the concept of aliens on a space station, the developers decided their extraterrestrials wouldn't be relegated to typical insectoid or lizard man depictions. Something that emanated a paranormal quality rose to the fore instead. In pursuit of an equally compelling gameplay application for the Mimics, Arcane turned to a D&D creature of the same name that could disguise itself as a chest and bite the hand of any curious passerby. Adding its own flair to the formula, the studio gave Prey Mimics the power to adopt the form of any object, as long as it was of a certain size or smaller. Mimics went on to inform player abilities, after crew members suggested the powers should come from the Typhon. Such a revelation influenced the psychoscope, an invention used to scan the creatures and acquire their abilities. Once Arcane forged this connection, one programmer built a gameplay prototype that turned the lead character into a chair. That players could move around proved an exciting feat, yet its perceived silliness raised concerns about Prey's tone. The studio couldn't part ways with it due to the pure fun of the mechanic, though. Given the litany of ways in which mimic powers can be put to use, Arcane presumably made the right choice. These systems and themes fueled the decision to keep the Prey name, despite the reimagining's lack of a connection to either of its predecessors. Plus, the title sounded good, Colantonio told GameSpot, highlighting that aliens on a space station and a first-person experience were thematic representations of Prey. Arcane didn't just want to explore another version of what came before, however. Rather, it aimed to immerse players in a cerebral adventure that recaptured System Shock's deep narrative and simulation qualities. Efforts on this front were elevated by assistance from developers that weren't directly involved throughout all of Prey's production. Harvey Smith, whose resume includes Deus Ex and Dishonored, aided in outlining the rationale behind the Typhon. System Shock designer Austin Grossman helped refine ideas for the original synopsis. And Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Fallout New Vegas scribe Chris Avallone was integral to many character arcs and side quests. Perhaps for the betterment of the end product, there were inventive features that didn't make the cut. For instance, Arcane initially designed the roguelike elements in Prey's Mooncrash DLC for the base game story. However, Bear argued procedural conditions wouldn't work in a long-form adventure, since most players rarely completed single-player titles and would, consequently, miss the payoff. Bethesda unveiled Arcane's Prey during E3 2016 for PC, PS4, and Xbox One. A Groundhog Day-esque trailer accompanied the reveal, encapsulating the mind-bending adventure that awaited aboard Talos 1. The build-up to Prey's May 2017 launch generated plenty of enthusiasm, particularly with regards to the narrative, setting, and open-ended gameplay. Critical reception upon release justified much of the enthusiasm, given the predominantly positive reviews. Critics and players alike were enamored with the game's psychologically enthralling opening sequence, although most agreed the segment foreshadowed a tale far greater than what the narrative yielded in the end. Nevertheless, the Deus Ex-style, open-ended level design warranted endless applause. Arcane's masterful work with environmental storytelling, world-building, and side quests garnered critical acclaim as well. And across the board, the immersive sim drew comparisons to BioShock. Thus, many felt Prey scratched an itch in the former's absence. These celebrated elements counterbalanced what numerous critics and gamers lamented as lackluster combat and stealth mechanics. While the weapons and abilities were serviceable, they generally failed to provide satisfying moment-to-moment action. Some reviewers thought that bullet-spongy enemies exacerbated Prey's shortcomings, with mimics receiving the brunt of the criticism. Mimics were a cool idea, a clever tool for creating tension that many argued was overutilized. To countless fans of the genre, though, these flaws were but blemishes on an otherwise ingeniously crafted tour de force. Within the last quarter of a century, 3 studios with 3 disparate visions served as custodians of the Prey IP. At least 4 projects made considerable headway during development, yet only 2 saw the light of day. The tale of the property's history, then, is as puzzling as the captivating events in Arcane's installment. But might there be hope for the future? A genuine Prey 2, perhaps? That much remains unclear. Hopefully, the recent entry doesn't constitute the franchise's swan song. The industry could benefit from inventive mechanics like those that riddled Prey in 2006, and the narrative devices akin to those that opened Prey 2017 are few and far between. It would seem the industry could use more Prey. Thank you for watching. We'd like to take this time to thank, by name, the generous patrons who have pledged to our Hall of Fame reward tier. Maktoum Saeed Al Maktoum, Paul Cousineau, and those currently subscribed to our producer reward tier. Darirap Sigurdsson, EmuMovies.com, Lame Game Man, Milkshake, Schizo Lingvo, If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to our channel and backing us on Patreon.